Good morning, everybody. Happy anniversary. Do you feel that you are 151? I do, I confess. We're 151 today, this congregation. And we go way back. If you look at the pictures on the back wall, you'll see the rogues gallery of some ministers of the past. One of them, third from the left, was called Ben Downing. And he was father to Adam Downing and father-in-law to Maggie, who Adam used to play the organ for us and sometimes comes to see us. And these are his words. He says, "Friends, draw close, listen together, sing together, pray together, share those mysteries which never die and those silences which never cease. As we share and celebrate our worship, one in all and all in each, may we feel that we are being understood more fully than we can ever understand ourselves. So may we give to the winds our fears. May we give to the world our faith. May we give to life our thanks and our service forever." And with that, we light our chalice flame. You can tell them to be quiet. "151 years ago, and about 8 days, a group of people, probably not very different from us, met for Unitarian worship. And this was a daring thing to do back then. We were sort of expelled from mainstream church life. Our ministers could not go to Oxford University. We were a kind of a despised group by mainstream Christianity. But they met, a lot of them, and within 2 months, they built themselves a church out of iron. And the project really got started. We're sitting here this morning because of them and because of all the others that have come since. So in one sense, this morning is about the past. We have much to be grateful for, but it's also about our future, which is why we might call it a service of rededication. What others have done before passes now into our hands, and we need all the hands and hearts, especially now, that we can muster to keep this small, defiant point of light growing. So in our songs and our laughter, our sharing of the meal, and what a meal we have today afterwards, and in fact, in every little conversation we've got today, let us keep in mind that we are the inheritors and the future directors of a great and beloved tradition. So it makes us want to ask, okay, what purpose burns within us? And we can answer that in this hymn which we sing now, number 194 in the Green Book. Thank you. One thing they didn't have 151 years ago, which we have now, is a resident minstrel. I'm talking about Lowell, who's going to entertain us now with a song we all know well. It goes with our theme today of harvest and of reaping what we've sown.
Hello, Mike. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. This is a folk song, a modernish folk song by Pete Seeger. And I have a few copies of the words, but they're so simple. I'm going to sing you the chorus, and then you can sing it with me. I'll sing it twice. Once at the beginning and once at the end. So it goes, how does it go? It's called The Garden Song by Pete Seeger. And it goes, inch by inch, row by row, I'm gonna make, I'm not gonna sing that there, it's too low. Okay, I'll do it here. Inch by inch, row by row, I'm gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warmed them from below till the rain came tumbling down. Just try it if you feel like it. Inch by inch, row by row, I'm gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warmed them from below till the rain came tumbling down. Pulling weeds and picking stones, man is made from dreams and bones. Feel the need to grow my own, as the time is close at hand. Grain for grain, sun and rain, find my way in nature's chain, to my body and my brain, to the music from the land. Inch by inch, row by row, I'm gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe, a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone blessed these seeds I sow. Someone warmed them from below till the rain came tumbling down. Plant your rows straight and long, thicker than with prayer and song. Mother Earth will make you strong if you give her love and care. Old crow watching hungrily from his perch in yonder tree. In my garden I'm as free as that feathered thief up there. Inch by inch, row by row, I'm gonna make this garden grow. All it takes is a rake and a hoe and a piece of fertile ground. Inch by inch, row by row, someone bless these seeds I sow. Someone warmed them from below till the rain came tumbling down. The Garden Song.
What can we say about this place? Some of you here will remember 11 years ago, we celebrated our 50th anniversary here in this building. And at that time, we made a time capsule. Everything, you remember that? Everything that was going on at the time, including the local newspaper and things that were going on in the church. And someday, I'm not sure when exactly we'll open it. But it should remind us that we're all just occupying little brief moments in time. There are very few things that are permanent. You might say nothing is permanent. But one thing that people have always needed and always sought out is home. So this is about our home here, our spiritual home. It's by Amanda Pape. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love that the founders felt when they planned out these walls and raised these beams above us. It is full of the love of all who have worshiped here, those who have celebrated and grieved here, the babies dedicated, couples married, and family members mourned here. It is full of the love of our children as they learn and laugh together, and our youth as they grew into their own sense of purpose and meaning. It is full of the love of the people who have served it, full of their hopes for this congregation, their hard work, and their acts of dedication. It is full of the love of the singers, the love made so clear in the voices lifted here on Sunday mornings. It is full of our love, the love of this community, despite our differences and our disagreements, the love that holds us together as a people. Because this is the home that love made. And she asks, can you feel it? Can you feel it? May this love stay with us always. Amen. We're blessed in a number of ways as a congregation. A few of them I'm going to try to outline later. But one of the ways we're blessed is our relationship with this group of people from Rainbows Across Borders who have sung to us wake-up songs and lullabies and reminded us constantly of some of the injustices that are still out there in the world. So all of you Rainbow singers, as far as I'm concerned, have a ministry, but also you have a lot of fun. So let's hear from you now. This is the Rainbows. We're going to try to record this as well. I think it'll work.
This was done with the support of our Music International, and pay tribute to Joe Steele, Roseanne, and all the members that helped to put this together. Stella, Amos, Steve, Julius, and Harrison. And please listen out to Challenges.
Wow. In the country I come from, they don't have a harvest celebration. They have what they call Thanksgiving. So let's give thanks for this. Come on, everybody, let's give thanks for this. As they say, that's a hard act to follow. Still, with all that music still ringing in our ears, let's take a deep breath, everybody. And join us here. Come back into this place where we've spent so many of our hours. And let's think about this harvest of ours. This harvest, as we go together into the good silence. We're grateful for the sight of familiar faces, of faces hitherto unknown to us, for the chance to be known, for the fond embrace of this old church, for the touch of love in the dear, sweet balm of laughter. One God of our hearts, we do give thanks for these today. So be it. Inshallah, shalom. Amen. We are bursting with talent around here, it seems. And 11 years ago, one of our number, John Bowler, wrote the words to the hymn we're about to sing, and I hope you have a hymn sheet. It used to be called 50 Years and Counting, but I had to alter it this morning because it's actually been 61 years and counting. And so let's sing that together now. And the tune is the tune to number 133 in the Green Book. We sought a new location. I have a feeling people are going to be singing 70 years and counting and 80 years and counting. But I'm going to ask you, I'm going to invite you now to hop into a time machine with me. Okay? So open the door, hop in, close the door behind you, and we're going to go back not too far, about 20 months ago. What you find is us, kind of a medium-sized congregation that does a pretty decent job of filling our seats on a Sunday morning. It's that time of year when we're expecting spring, anytime. And now we've hatched really great plans. Due to an unexpected bequest, we found ourselves in a position to invest in the future. We're close to signing a contract to install on this roof 34 solar panels, and out here 2 ground source heat pumps to make this building and everything we do in it entirely carbon neutral. We did that not to show off, but because we feel that it's the right thing to do now. And Unitarians have always been in the front of important social change. And then, drum roll, the Ides of March came, and the coronavirus hit us hard. By the end of the first year, we had lost 2 active committee members to death, another pillar of the community as well. One of these was a beloved colleague, the Reverend Steve Dick, on whose technical skills we'd come to rely. And 2 more active members were lost to dementia, probably accelerated by isolation, though I can't prove that. And due to fear of contagion, most of our older members stayed away, even after we became allowed to hold reduced services. Things went from rosy to glum in a matter of a few days. We all remember that. But you know what? We're still here. We're still here. But as we looked around and surveyed our losses, something happened to me. I began to feel this odd, paradoxical, sort of positive note creeping into my reflections. I'm going to share it with you. During the past century and a half, members of this church have lived through at least 2 major world depressions and 2 world wars, plus any number of skirmishes. Through times of pretty grave austerity, through the bombing of its own beautiful old church, where luminaries like the famous Unitarian James Martineau preached. And of course, it continued its witness through the great pandemic of 1918. We forget. The so-called Spanish flu killed 50 million people worldwide. It cannot be that members of this congregation weren't also affected. Yet we know little of that. There are no records to inform us of that. But we're still here. There are no witnesses now. If you leave today by the car park, you can look on the wall in the portico and you see these plaques that have been salvaged from other churches in past times, and you'll see a few names of people really that we don't know. And we sort of got out of the practice of putting plaques up on walls anyway, but we know that they were here. We know that because somehow the torch was passed from generation to generation, and we're still here now. Probably up there somewhere in the loft we could find some old newsletters maybe, or guest books or something, but really all we need to know is that we are the harvest of their time here. There would have been other harvest services where members of this church would have felt not just the perpetual threat of winter, it's going to get cold and so on, but the possibility of dissolution. And there have been times in the last 20 months when it seemed as if this old congregation might have to close its doors. The thought occurred more than once, and to more than one or two of us. And that's in direct contradiction to our motto, which is on all our literature. It's the name of our newsletter, the open door. The idea of closing them was anathema. The flame flickering in this chalice, which was made in part by one of our departed members, seemed puny. Its little light seemed nearly overwhelmed by the rows of empty chairs. Nearly overwhelmed, but not quite. And it made me wonder why. And I'll ask you, would the loss of this congregation, this little group of people, cause any widespread grief in the community? Would it make the evening news? Would it even make the Croydon Advertiser? Probably not. Now that we're recovering, when the seats are not quite as empty as they were before, we can maybe allow ourselves to think that something about us is tough and is enduring. Something about us is important and is necessary. So let us, as a group of fellow worshipers, consider what that might mean. Well, I've come to the conclusion that our problem, you can say our crisis, is an opportunity. No, that's not me just being stupidly cheerful, Pollyanna. Here's why. More people now than before the crisis connect with our services and agree with our witness. Because we've had to rely on technology, we've acquired a small but important following. Sometimes when there are only 8 or 10 of us sitting in here, 30 people are watching in such diverse places as Mexico, Singapore, Paris, and Ohio. They too are part of this church and its witness. We don't know who or where they are, why they've tuned into our service. It's a bit like the wind works, carrying seeds. Something is being sown, something that, like this physical church, will one day have its own harvest. It will be up to us to move from these amateurish videos, for which I apologize to all of you out in cyberspace. It will have to move from this amateurish stuff we're doing into something a bit better. And I'm hoping we can do that in the future. I hope that during the next year we can find new people who know their way around a camera and a computer to help us with that. But that is not to say, I want to be really clear on this, that is not to say that this building will become something like a studio. It is the repository of a century and a half of dreams. It has been transformed from cement blocks and boards into something that we can say with a straight face is holy. It is itself the harvest of 7 generations, and we are right to assume our place in it with a sense of reverence. So here's some stuff for us to think about as we jump on that table groaning with food out there. As we quaff the wine, gobble the cake, have a laugh. Here's what we can say to the world. You know what? We're still here. We're still here. Amen. You know, there'll be somebody watching in San Francisco, and they'll be really happy about that. We traditionally have done a collection for the feast. We're going to continue that, but in a different way. We're going to put a little box outside if you want to chip in some money, because you can eat until you drop today. That I absolutely guarantee you. And if you don't have any money, don't worry about it. But that should go in there. And a couple things to mention. Next week, which is Remembrance Sunday, it's a Sunday that ministers try to avoid. Everybody's sad, and it's a whole bunch of stuff about the war, and people got their poppies on, and all that. The reason we try to avoid it is you can't say anything right. You always wind up offending somebody. But I'm hoping to remember some of our fallen next week, some of the people that we lost during the pandemic, and people for whom we've had very little time to talk about. But before they even went, there are two very, very important people to this congregation that we need to remember. One, John has brought these flowers in memory of Michael. Yes, you want to show that? Michael Gerard, who was for years chairman of the committee. So those flowers are in memory of Michael. And looking at the rainbows across borders today, I can't help but think about Ray, our beloved friend Ray, who was so instrumental in getting Rainbows Across Borders going and helping you guys become self-sufficient. And during your singing today, which by the way was marvelous, absolutely marvelous, and the sax playing and the piano, I couldn't help thinking about Ray and how much he would have enjoyed it. But he would have tried to make you sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow, I think. That's what he used to do. So we'll remember them today as well and think about them at the buffet. And there are lots of things we're going to do in the future. We're going to change the world, aren't we? But we'll start with hymn number 198 in the Purple Book, called We'll Build a Land. So ends our service. It is time to feast and then to resume the task that all of us began so long ago. There is much to be done and much joy in the sharing. And because we need each other, let us do what we know we should. Look after one another until we meet again. Amen.